crazy how it changes and fluctuates too, where it was like the highest people would have tattoos, and then it's the lowest of the low, like just prisoners and prostitutes, stuff like that, and then they're like, oh, back up. Other countries, like, still taboo and banned in a lot of places.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And to like have it start in so many different parts of the world, unrelated, I would assume unrelated unless we could find a missing link between them all, but so many different continents where they are all practicing the same thing, just different designs. You're like, what if we mark our body? And then it just grew from there, and then just out of nowhere they tried to prohibit it. Like, I know a lot of it, some of it's religious, some of it's government, some of it's based on crimes and gangs destroying the culture. But
Right.
so many different variations, but I think we're in a new era now, which is nice that it's just becoming globalized. We're getting to see that it's not just associated with a negative connotation, and that you can get it to just purely decorate your body, show your stories.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, for me, obviously, I'm from Ukraine, so growing up in the 90s in Ukraine, 90s Euros, it was like, yeah, it was like you see the tattoos from prison, you know, like older guys who spend time, you know, and they have, you know, certain symbols, or, you know, it's like this association, or like if you were, you know, a sailor or in the military. And, you know, like it wasn't something that was normalized. When I started tattooing already, like here, and I mean, I learned it actually in Mexico, but I started to tattoo professionally first in London, then in New York, because I travel a lot, like we talk. And I told my mom, like, well, I'm going to start tattooing. And her first reaction was like, oh, but you're a girl, like, that's like for guys who've done time. Like, I mean, she gets it now, but it was like, because that's the culture, that's what we were kind of conditioned to believe. And then years after, like, my mom tell me, like, well, actually, you know what, like, your grandfather have tattoos. And I was like, what? He's like, actually, he tattooed himself. He have, like, because he was in the military, and he had, like, his name, I think, on his knuckles, and he, like, tattooed himself. And I was like, so I'm not even the first tattoo artist in my family. Wow, you never tell me. That's amazing. And then she's like, yeah, we're just all so ashamed of him. Like,
I feel like they hide it too. Like, my Mimo, super against all my tattoos. But then I told her the meaning. She's like, you know what? I like those. She didn't like those ones. My mom didn't like those either. She's like, okay, you're pushing it now. But I asked my mom, I was like, what do you think of this? She's like, you already got your left hand done, so what's it matter?
what's it matter
But
now?
she's like, oh, well, they actually look beautiful. But she was like, none of us have tattoos. And she's like, actually, your Uncle Charlie had a couple. He had his ex-wife tattooed on him and then remarried. And I'm like, are you yelling at me?
You're yelling at me? That sounds like way more drama.
I was like, I'm getting nice things on me. And, like, I guess my great-grandpa had tattoos too, and she's like, well, you're going to look like a prisoner with all those tattoos. And I was like, your parents and your uncle had tattoos. And she's like, nah, it's a different time. They were in war.
They were in war, yeah.
Okay. But it just skips, like, generations too. Like, I think my mom has 2 of them. Just 2 little small ones, but she hides them. And then
She hides them?
yeah, one's like back here, and I forget what the other one is. I think maybe it's on her ankle. And then Mimo has none at all. Grandpa has none at all. But then their parents did. But I'm assuming their parents before that, none at all. And then maybe before that, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like crazy because like it's almost like it's kind of it was like hidden. Nobody want to talk about it because it's like I think the generation of our parents, grandparents, it was like taboo, associated with military, associated with like maybe prison. And you know, we go back in time, like I know for sure, like for example in my region, like there is archaeological proof of tattooing going back to like, you know, really a long time ago. I mean, when Christianity was brought to my part of the world, that's when they forbid tattoos, because before that it was part of the culture. We don't know so much information. I mean, you know, we have some like, you know, the mummies that are preserved like in Siberia because it was like one common culture that was like nomadic. But it was like, and there's like some, you know, I think that some tradition, like written tradition in Turkish manuscripts about like that region that was like where is Ukraine now, and they're like, yeah, they have like some tattoos that represent like different, like I think natural symbols, which is similar like to what I do now, but not in color. mostly in black, like kind of tribally. And all of that was forbidden, so we don't know. We don't really know. We have some proof, some preserved bodies here and there, so we have some idea that, okay, I think that, they had like metal, so they make needles from gold, so we know that. So if you look at the tribals that are done on like the Siberian mummies, those cannot be done with an organic material. Those had to be done with a metal, because
Yeah.
those lines are too perfect. So pretty advanced technology
Yeah.
for that time, but we don't know, again, which is so tragic, but
And it could be so much older than what they are now. It's like 5,000 with Utsi.
yeah.
And his was all just, they would slice open the skin, put some charcoal in it,
right.
rub it in, and let it heal. I'm like, that would hurt so bad.
Remember the first person who figured out like how that works, like who's like, I stabbed myself and then I got like some soot inside my skin and it stayed. Okay, we can do something with this.
And his was all for like therapeutic to like
Yeah.
fix back pain because they were all here.
Yeah. And
I'm like,
the
I
knees.
need those.
Yeah, I need those too. And
I need 100 of those. But he had them at his like joints,
knees.
on his tendons, and all like the bendy areas of your body.
Right, because it does have that. Like when you have trauma, because it's like your antibodies, right? Like you have trauma in an area, and like your body stops to heal that area. For example, you have like, I don't know, you have some skin condition even, and your body stops to heal the area. At some point, it's like, okay, good enough. But if you tattoo that area, if you make trauma to that area, your body's gonna be like, oh, okay, let me send more antibodies.
Yeah.
So it does work that way. But our ancestors figured that out like 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, it was like acupuncture back then.
Yeah.
I think back then they were a lot more creative, just with less tools, because you just had nothing but time to think. Like the philosophers and all that, you're just sitting in a room all day thinking. And you're like, that's why they came up with all these genius ideas. Like, just like,
Yeah.
got it. But now I'm like, all right, I'm getting creative. I'm like, okay, TikTok. So many distractions.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's why they go into this, like, they look at their old archaeological sites and they're like, how do they build this? It must have been aliens. Like, they had time.
Yeah.
They didn't have TikTok.
You get 100,000 people and you're just like, because, when they say like the pyramids were built by aliens, like I get the blocks are very heavy, but it is a pyramid. And you just like, it's gonna take a lot of time. It's gonna take a lot of people to move the blocks. But I'm sure, because it took like hundreds of years. You just do like one block a month, you'll eventually get there.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I mean, it's organization too, because those societies had like high organization.
Yeah.
Something we maybe lack today.
I would be pissed too, like if I was the Egyptians, like who built that, and they're like, yeah, they're just blaming it on aliens. They're like, we spent so much time on this, and you're just gonna discredit us. Nope, must have been magic.
I mean, come on. Like, I always get angry against these angry arguments with people about that topic. Like, I think the example that everybody gives, like, on the internet and on some programs, they're like, Tiwanaku in Bolivia. They're like, oh, that stone is perfectly cut. How is it possible to make these orthogonal straight lines? Like, it's impossible. It must have been aliens. And you go to the archaeological site, it's sandstone. It's not hard to cut. They had levels. They're in museums there. They had like this, they already figured out how to make a level with like water and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, like human beings don't understand that just because right now we have iPhone and all this technology, that doesn't mean that our wisdom was maybe using more simple tools, but we were still going in the same place. Like, we were still looking for the same things. We wanted to control our existence. You know what I mean? Because our time here is so fleeting. What average lifespan at the time? 50 years now. What is it, like 80, 100 max? You know, maybe from the mountains somewhere in Asia, maybe 120 max. But like not that much time. So like marking your skin, it's a way to control what we can. Building big pyramids, it's a way to try to create a legacy after us. Everything we do has to do with, we just want to stay here. We don't want to go. We want to
keep our story. That's a great way. They're like, how do they remember us? Let's build the biggest fucking pyramid in the middle of the desert. That thing's not going anywhere.
And it didn't.
Nope. I think I read once that it was like completely smooth at one point. Like it would just reflect off of it. It was like smooth as like white marble.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
Wow.
wild. I want to see them in person.
You been there?
No, Egypt? No, I haven't been to Egypt.
What's the craziest monument I've seen? I've seen the Great Wall.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
That's
I think it's
crazy.
like 5,000 miles of just. There's some dudes just like, we're gonna build this all the way through. They're like, how long? Like 5,000 miles.
That's insane. That's incredible. I mean, it
No
had
one says that that was made by aliens.
Yeah, nobody questions that
no,
one.
no, I think it was more recent.
Why?
It was more recent. It was more recent. And there's like, you know, because they have,
Maybe the
because
people
there's
think that
documentation.
The Egypts doesn't have the skill.
Well, then we enter a whole other geopolitical sort of social issue there as well, as far as which ones are questioned more than others. For me, the most incredible monument I've ever seen, I don't know, maybe you know, you've been there, in Cambodia. I don't know if you say you've been to Cambodia. No? Angkor Wat for me was like,
Oh, I've seen pictures.
I mean, that was in its time, and I think 13th century, it was the biggest city. I mean, it's the biggest city that was constructed in all of Asia. And in 13th century, when Europe don't have plumbing or anything like that, they have whole irrigation system, plumbing system, everything. And all the reliefs, sculptures, is carved in one shot. So they don't like make it and put it piece by piece. They make the whole structure first, and then they carve everything. So if you mess up, like you couldn't mess up.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's like, to me, just that part, that all the bas reliefs are done after the construction, like blew my mind. Like that's incredible, like absolutely incredible. The most beautiful, artistry-wise, archaeological site I have ever seen in my life. For me, it's wow. Just
Yeah,
the
that's-
size, and most of it is still under the jungle. It's not all of it yet.
Oh
I think
yeah,
it's
because it
10%
was
or
like, is it
something.
like a city?
The city.
That tedious like little details, even like the more modern ones, like the Duomo in Milan. I'm just like, there's like 400 statues on this, and then you have to build up the brick, then the inside, and then you have to put all those statues up there, and somebody just carved them. I'm like, how? This is crazy.
No, it's incredible. It's so incredible.